Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm talking about how to start OFM as a beginner. So yeah, quickly I don't even mention on my new YouTube channel that's made specifically for AI, I'm making like an AI version of this, how to start AI OFM as a beginner. So if you want to go check that out, my other channel is called Patrick AI. I also linked it in the post section of my channel on this channel, so yeah. But anyway, first of all, things to know before starting. So one of the most important things is that info or knowledge is key. This is a very fast-moving industry, and you need to have correct, updated info. So, when it comes to stuff like being in these free chats on Telegram and stuff like that, a lot of the time people just spread fake information. It might not be on purpose, but they might not know what they're talking about either themselves, and then it just sort of starts to become a thing where everyone's got the fake information or like wrong information, and they all just start spreading it, thinking they might be helping, but in reality, it's just all wrong, right? Um, and in a lot of cases, it's not that it's completely wrong, but it's more the fact that it's like little things where it's not needed. For example, with warm up or how to create accounts, stuff like that. A lot of people give out very wrong information on what's actually needed. Um, so yeah. Anyway, don't think of any creator. Look for high quality. So again, I think this is a very big mistake that most beginners make. I made this myself in the past. Don't just go with any creator just because you're desperate need for money, or you just want to make money fast, whatever. It's way better to spend a bit more time doing outreach or doing ads or however you gain your model. It's way better to spend more time doing outreach to get a higher quality model than just going for the first thing you can get. Because in most cases, the first model you get, um, unless you know what you're doing straight away, is going to be like either like a low quality model in terms of looks, or how like she's lazy or she just doesn't have time, whatever it might be. She might be low quality, and you just take her on, and it's going to take you way more time to make money than what you could have done with like a higher quality model, right? So yeah. Next is basically what I said earlier, like networking is important, but be careful who you listen to. Um, Basically what I was saying earlier, like, you know, it is important to talk to people, it is important to get new knowledge all the time, but just make sure you get it from the correct people. Don't just listen to any random guy you see in the chat, because a lot of people in this industry are wrong a lot of the time without even realizing it. Alright, so start your agency and outreach. So first of all, a website can help, but it's not needed. This is another thing that beginners spend so much time on, is making a website. I don't know why this is such a like normalized thing. So many people spend literally like a week plus just to make some random shit website. You don't even need a website. I've literally had a website in like 2 years. My website randomly got taken down a very long time ago, and since that I've literally not used one. And models never ask for one. They don't really care either. It's just not something that you actually need. Obviously, it's nice to have one. It can make you look a bit more professional, but it's not required to have one. IG account for an agency page, a personal account, and a fake creator account. So these are the ways of outreach, right? Agency account is not for outreach. This is just there to show models and to have in your other accounts bios, so that if a model does want to take a look somewhere at what your agency looks like, maybe results, whatever, they can take a look on IG. And the personal account and the fake creator account is the ones that you're going to be doing outreach from. So yeah, and then pay someone to create a logo or create it on Canva. If you have some money, I recommend just paying someone. It won't cost you a lot, and you're not having to waste your own time. And yeah, all right. Next, sorry, is starting outreach. So the main things to look out for is looks, quality of content slash the camera, and are they hardworking. So looks and quality of camera, you can obviously tell by just what she posts and stuff. But then are they hardworking is more like when you start talking to them, ask them questions, whatever. Like I said earlier, right? Look for high quality. It's very important to make sure you have a model that's at least willing to somewhat make this work, and she doesn't expect you to do everything without her having to lift her finger. because unfortunately this industry is toxic as well. Not just from agencies. A lot of models think agencies are always a problem. Of course, a lot of agencies can be a problem, but models can also be a big problem too. A lot of models have a very, very big ego, unfortunately, or just don't care. Um, and sometimes it happens where an agency actually can do well, but the model just expects the agency to do way too much for them without helping. Right? And at the end of the day, this is a partnership business. You can't expect the agency to do anything without the model also doing something. So, yeah, pretty much like I said, if they're not hardworking, don't bother. In my opinion, unless they're like a very perfect model and they have only like 1 hour a day, then sure. But if that's not the case, then I wouldn't recommend doing that. And yeah, and then now other than outreach, other ways to get models is either ads or marketplaces as well. I've got my own marketplace. If you join my Telegram, you'll see me mentioning it a few times. And obviously ads too. Just just simple boost on Instagram is good enough on the agency page, and you can try to get models that way. Or you can join a marketplace. Like I said, if you've got a bit of a higher budget and you don't know where to put your money, you can potentially buy a model instead of having to outreach. All right, closing models. So it's either going to be through text or call. It's pretty much the same thing, but obviously on a call, you probably have a bit more questions. You talk a bit more normally, stuff like that. But yeah, first of all, don't be a robot. Ask how a day's been. You're both human, right? Don't just get straight into it. Like actually talk to her a little bit, like as if she's just human. Well, I mean, she is a human, but you know, and introduce yourself. So begin explaining info about how your agency works, what you do, what you handle. Explain how she has to basically do nothing except from just creating content for you to obviously handle the rest. And obviously ask her if she has any questions. You can ask her about how her OF's doing so far, stuff like that. And just see where the conversation goes, right? There's not an exact script for this because it's going to be different with every call or model you talk to. Because at the end of the day, one model might care about how you do chatting, whereas the other one doesn't care about that, but she might care about how you handle the content or something, right? So every model's gonna have different questions most likely. But yeah, and then if she's happy with everything, you've talked to her for a while, ask for an email and then agree on the percentage split or salary, then send over contract. So obviously, when I say agree on percentage split, you should do this around this time, like towards the end, when you talk about everything. Then you should mention like, okay, we're happy to work with you. Usually, our agency works on like a 60-40 split to the agency. If she's happy with that, obviously send an email. I mean, sorry, just ask for the email, and obviously send the contract over using like DocuSign or something like that. And once that's done, if you signed, then you do onboarding. So this is when you get access to accounts like OF, social media if she has it, and then you also prepare for marketing. So you create a Google Drive for her to upload content into. If it's not enough, you need to do research and find content she can recreate. So for example, from Reddit, from IG Reels, stuff like that, right? Get a bunch of content prepared that she can basically just recreate, and then you can go ahead and start marketing. While she's doing that, or while you're waiting or preparing for marketing, whatever, optimization. So optimizing the OF, basically just changing a few things, right? Once you log in, let's say she's currently just doing no niche, and then you want to put her in like a golf niche. Then obviously you got to change up the OF, right? Change up the bio, the name, the banner, profile picture, everything. The welcome message. You want to change everything up to how you want it to be to also match the niche. And then after that, you want to start planning what to do for marketing. So planning what to do for marketing. I mean, it's pretty simple. Once you basically plan out what niche you want to do, you have some content. You then plan out like what to do for marketing on like Reddit. Let's say you want to start with Reddit. Then obviously you got to do some research, find models within the same niche, see what subreddits they post in, and just start testing from there. So marketing. Once content's ready, you can now begin marketing. Usually I recommend Reddit and X, like I was just saying, for beginners. Obviously Reels and stuff is easy too, but with Reels it takes a bit more time, stuff like that, so that's why I usually recommend X and Reddit. So X, very simple in my opinion. We use a tool or bot called XBot, and it automates retweet groups. If you want more info on this, I got a bunch of videos on XBot. so you can go check that out more in detail on exactly what our tool does. But as simple as it sounds, that's literally all it is, and that's all we do for Twitter. It's basically fully automated straight away, so it's very easy. And yeah, and then Reddit. For Reddit, we do organic marketing, and basically, like I was just saying, right? When you plan out your content and marketing with Reddit, it's basically just you have to choose a niche, then you gotta just do testing, right? So the things you gotta test out is content, subreddits, and niches. And then once you basically find like something that works within those three, that's when you're gonna start seeing results, and then that's when you can start scaling even more with Reddit. And then TikTok and IG, pretty similar in terms of testing. You gotta just keep testing out niches, the style of content you're doing, and then the main things to focus on is quality. So obviously, other than the niches and the style of content you gotta keep testing, the main things to look out for to make sure you actually are viral worthy is the quality of the content you're actually posting. And then obviously lives like TikTok live stuff like that as an extra is a good way to get some boost, like in terms of traffic. It's not the most consistent way of getting traffic, but it can help. And when it does do well, it does print, but it's not consistent, like I said. Um, and then yeah, lastly, obviously chatting. For chatting, there's two options. Either you can get, we usually recommend beginners to do is to get a chat agency at first. They usually take like 15 or 20%. So usually I'd recommend to take a chat agency at first, just so that you sort of have someone talking for you while you're still working on scaling your traffic, and then learn from them, right? Learn from that chat agency if they're good, and then use that knowledge that you've just gained from those people chatting to build you to like hire your own chatters and train your own chatters. And that's what I usually recommend people to do. Obviously, a lot of people out there do use chat agencies long term, and that's fine too. But just keep in mind that you are giving a pretty big percentage away when you could just do it yourself, or like handle it with your own team. And then scaling, obviously, this is something that I talk way more in my group about, in my private group, in terms of scaling your entire agency, not just the marketing part of it, but, completely everything. But in terms of scaling, it's something that I would say don't overcomplicate. It's something that, the best way to explain it is just look at it in a way of you're basically doing the same thing, but hiring someone to do it for you. So let's say you started with Reddit, for example, for marketing, and you got really good at it. Now you can then hire and train someone to do the exact same thing for you. So it's basically as if having yourself, but multiple times to scale and do the same thing more and more and more. So let's say you now got 3 VAs all handling 3 Reddit accounts, and you got like one yourself. That means you'd have like 10 Reddit accounts instead of one, and obviously that's how it's scaling. So it's something that I would say don't overcomplicate it. It's very easy to scale. But yeah, that's pretty much how to start OFM as a beginner. These are the basics that you need to understand to be able to start and actually start making money. Obviously, I got way more information on my private group. I give out even more free value in my Telegram as well. So I'll leave that in the description. If you got any questions, you can DM me on Telegram as well. And yeah, see you guys later.